Tilly's got some secret novel time. Not rated M this time. The Little Engine That Could Australia. Series 4. Episode 3. Tilly's Secret. Chapter 1. I was putting Tilly to bed when day's work was finished. She was wanting to tell me something. I remembered when she told me the American news people were trying to find her, but have failed. The secret she was about to tell me got me interested. Tell me then, old girl. Well, it all started when the days were a little hard on me. I didn't like it. In the new year, it goes like this. On the 24th of December 2014, there was a railway that was called an orphanage railway for trains that were built at the wrong time and engines that were built in the right time, thank you very much. The name of the orphanage railway is called Anklesville Railway. The owners who owned it are called the Higamen. They're a family that run the orphanage railway. And the children help with cleaning the engines. But the children don't like parents of theirs working in an orphanage because when they were born, they were taken to this boring place, which was a taunt torture and not a life to start with. The names on which they changed in secret as they were 12 and 13 Tickles and Fickles Gerda. They changed their names because their parents had been not giving them a chance of what they could do. They didn't allow them to go outside, which was a blow because they kept them in the orphanage as prisoners. What odd ways their mother and father would make because, well, they have a mind which is full of boldness, bossiness, and most of all, hatred. One morning, when Mr. and Mrs. Higgman were out visiting some of their friends, Tiggles and Figgles were cleaning the engines who were not liking to be in this good-for-nothing orphanage. Tiggles asked them, "What's making you not like living here?" One of the engines said to Tiggles, when they were glad of someone to ask kindly, "Mr. and Mrs. Higgman have tortured us with taking in children into this good-for-nothing orphanage. They treated us like dogs, and even worse, they won't let us go. We've been kidnapped. Let us introduce ourselves. We're Bill and Ben. We're on our way to Tasman Sodor. The Higgman wanted to know it so they can mock and torture too." "Oh dear," said Figgles. "Well, I think it's a good thing our good-for-nothing parents are away. You can go before they come back." "Right-o, wish us luck." And they left. "Success, brother. Yeah, that will teach our so-called parents to torture them." As they rested in the empty train shed part of the orphanage, they read their books and had a good chance of visiting schools when they made their own school. Well, they made their own school in secret. Mr. Higgman came home to sort out paper records of the engines they kidnapped, not realizing that Bill and Ben, the tank engine twins, have escaped. Mrs. Higgman was walking home from a friend's house. When it happened, she suddenly saw out of the corner of her eye a black pony was standing about her friend's property. It was looking at a sign. Mrs. Higgman thought to herself, "Ponies can't read signs." "How come this one can read my friends?" She tried to shoo it away. "Shoo!" she said. But the black pony just stared at her with a look that was a threat back. Mrs. Higgman backed away at that scary sight. Was it normal pony way? Or was it a fact that it lost it? Then the black pony began to give her a nasty surprise when it spoke harshly. "Push off yourself, you tiny bonehead." Mrs. Higgman screamed and ran off home. Little tyke. She calmed herself down, and to get her good feelings back, she said to herself, "Pull yourself together, that pony can't talk." And she just minded her own business. While she walked on, she saw to her shock little baby ponies that were with a baby dragon. "Oh, just kids having a Halloween party," she thought as she walked on. But before she did, she heard a word from them. She listened to what they were saying. "Did you hear?" said a yellow and red-maned pony, "about Tilly, the little blue engine who escaped America and was on the way to—" They looked up and saw Mrs. Hickman. The baby dragon decided to shoo her off with breathing a flame at her. "Don't make me burn your dress, you tiny bonehead," he said. Mrs. Hickman ran off. "Little tyke, as I was saying," said the yellow and red-maned pony, "did you hear about Tilly, the little blue engine who escaped America and was on her way to Tasman Sodor in Australia?" "Yeah," said an orange and purple pony. "She's had enough of that tar, and she's coming to that orphanage to stay and rest, but the news would be hunting her down. That lady we shoot is Mrs. Hickman. I hope she doesn't torture that little engine," said a white and pink and light purple pony. "Not a nice couple, her and her husband. Let's get back to our first home. Twilight and the friends will wonder where we are." They vanished. A blue engine was chuffing in London to find a place to sleep for the night. "There's a good spot," said Tilly, "and there's some children that live in it." Figgles and Tickles were surprised to see Tilly. "It's the engine from the book we read when we went to the library," they said. "Hello, I'm Tilly. We're Tickles and Figgles, but we're in trouble." "What's the trouble?" "Our parents have owned this good-for-nothing orphanage. Mr. and Mrs. Hickman have tortured us into good-for-nothing things like poor school. We'll tell you if we escape. We want to live someplace else. Don't worry. I'll think of something right now. Let's sleep. Then we'll plan our plot." But none of them didn't know that Mrs. Hickman was spying on them. She got out of sight and went to tell her husband, but her mind was on the engine. She'd never heard a name Tilly that would ring the bell. Something like Telly or Relly. Our children are up to something, and that engine is something we want them to confess to us about. It would have been better if she kept her voice quiet, because she didn't know Tilly can go off railing. Tilly had heard her and began to stalk her. Mrs. Hickman came to her husband and began to tell him, "Tim." "What, Fither?" "Our children were talking to an engine." "Don't be silly. They can't talk to engines." "Well, they talked to one and I heard they were on a plot." She stopped to have a moment's thought. She remembered the black pony and the baby ponies, baby dragon, that seemed to know better than she did. I fear we're about to lose our family. You certainly will. They looked up and saw Tilly staring at them. You're the engine that our children were talking about. Yes, and it's best you don't mess with engines that have suffered tough times. I want you to leave our orphanage. You know nothing of our children. Dry up, Mr. Hickman, you great skull. Now you listen to me. That black pony is Nightmare Moon, and she won't be pleased to have you alive in a strange mind like this. Indeed, I would, said a voice. Oh! A smack came on Mrs. Hickman's head. The blow got her on the floor. She lay limp. It happened to Mr. Hickman. Ow! Now you're all dried up, you great prunes. Tiggles and Figgles came up to see what was going on. Your good-for-nothing parents will be forgotten when we leave, you two. I've heard you were needing a better life. It will be best if you live with my sister, Celestia. She'll be glad to have you living in a castle. Who's she? A princess pony. There's one job you can do. You can help us getting the Friendship Express ready for day's work. If you do it, you learn to make engines you like to make. Yeah, you two will make new life without your parents. You can choose friends, not family. Well, all right, this means we're moving. Yes, I'll send you there. Nightmare Moon sent the children to the new home. It's time you should leave, Tilly, after you get some sleep. Goodbye. Goodbye, Nightmare Moon. Tilly went back to the shed of hers before Mr. and Mrs. Hickman had a chance to wake up.